He's using CBIs, all right?
Business venture in what you might call an untapped market. It's gonna move more product than Chicago has ever seen.
We're about to become the only connect in Chicago.
With a mini reboot to Power Book 4 Force, we're in for one hell of a season. And if the season trailer is anything to go by, then episode 1 is just scratching the surface. All storylines which were meaningless or had no legs have been removed, for example Dahlia and Adrian, who I really feel didn't really serve Diamond's character in any way. Kate's now in Chicago to bring this family dynamic to Tommy Egan's character in season 2, and we've also got a new ruthless Mexican drug lord in Miguel Garcia. There's also a few new other players, and by the looks of the season trailer, there's definitely a lot more to come. But the foundation has certainly been set in episode 1, which I do think was necessary to kickstart Force and send it in the direction it should have had in season 1. They put a heavy focus on the culture of Chicago, the real world issues, and also brought the OG power vibes back with law enforcement, who are going to continue to be a huge problem. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down all the scenes from the season trailer and taking a look at where the current storylines are and where they seem to be heading in Power Book 4 Force Season 2. Now, Tommy's someone who still may be a new face to some in Chicago, but he's not to us. We've known him for 7 seasons, 6 in Power and 1 in Force, with a few appearances in Power Book 2 Ghost. The Tommy we know has never shied away from the streets. He's never hid from anyone, whether it be enemies, connects, or law enforcement. His ambitions and goals in the street game also remain the same as they've always done. He wants to be the king, the biggest drug dealer and the only connect in Chicago. Unfortunately, that is going to be a problem, because Miguel Garcia also has his eyes on being the only connect in Chicago. But at some point in season 2, Tommy will step into an untapped market, which will move more product than Chicago has ever seen. And as I mentioned before, we know what he's capable of. Him and Ghost set up a sophisticated career system in Power which was built for finesse. When Milan came on board after Felipe Lobos, we saw him give Milan a breakdown of how they can move vast amounts of product and deliver it to the doorsteps to different clientele like a fucking pizza. In Force Season 1, he put a locker drop system in place, which was actually very similar to what Tariq and Braden were using at Stansfield's rooftop with Course Correct. Now, this untapped market does seem like it's nightclubs, a market which they did kind of enter with Dahlia in Season 1. But I guess with Dahlia being no more, the market will be open. Now, how they do this is yet to be seen, but again, one way we've seen them move in clubs before is through the Truth Bottle system, which was implemented by Dre. So however Tommy decides to move this vast amounts of product, he's going to have to come up with a very sophisticated and strategic way of doing so, especially with law enforcement hot on his heels. I briefly mentioned Tommy isn't the only one who has sights on becoming the only connect in Chicago, so does Miguel Garcia. Now this stems from the war he has with the Serbian network. We learned in episode 1 that Markovic and Miguel run opposing pipelines and they're direct competitors. We're also going to see the Serbs making their move in episode 2, so it does seem like Miguel Garcia will be retaliating, so war is definitely on the horizon between the Mexicans and the Serbs. Now in the shootout, we've also got Tommy who's going to find himself in the middle of it all. But the main takeaway for Tommy is, he'll begin to understand the beef between the Mexicans and the Serbs, and at some point he will use that to his advantage, but for the time being he seems to have Miguel Garcia's back, although unfortunately that won't be enough to earn his trust, as we've already heard from episode 2's trailer. He'll gut him like a fish before he puts his trust in him. Now when and if he finds out about Tommy's plans about becoming the biggest connect in Chicago, this is going to cause another huge problem. These are a few stills from another teaser where Miguel says Egan is too dangerous to be left alive. So at some point he's going to begin to understand the game Tommy's playing, but how does he make his move on Tommy? We've seen the Flynn's, Jannard and the Serbs hit Tommy in the past in season 1 and all 3 failed, so what will Miguel Garcia have up his sleeve? Now another quick point on Miguel and this particular scene. I mentioned that this could be Miguel's mother or grandmother, and it may even turn out to be the case she's the head of the organization, the original leader or someone who Miguel looks to as a mentor. We all know how Miguel Garcia is big on family, and so that brings me on to his sister. We're gonna hear Maria warn Tommy to stay away from her. Unfortunately, we all know that's not gonna stop him. Now, we all know these two will get closer and love will be in the air, so the only question I have for the remainder of season 2 is when she gets pulled deeper into the game, because no doubt she will. Will she side with Tommy, or is she as big as family as her brother Miguel Garcia? Will she stick with the Garcias? Moving on to Jannard and the problems he's having with his organization, we've got him in a real fight, hand-to-hand combat with one of his members from treason. And I think shit is really about to reach boiling point with Jannard. He's low on bodies, blocks and money. Chewie would have been able to help him by bringing him on board, but that still wasn't enough because we saw him approach Claudia, who rejected his offer. Chewie is now also dead at the hands of Tommy. Now he's got issues with Miguel Garcia's re-up, and Markovic wants the territory that belongs to the CBI. So Jannard this season is about to be in some big trouble. He'll no doubt want to retaliate because of Chewie's death, but this is a move that I did question in my trailer breakdown. Is it a wise move to move on Tommy and the CBI when he's under fire himself? This is why I feel Diamond will bail him out at some point in season 2, and the two brothers will definitely come back together on one team. In the official trailer, we saw Janard shooting alongside Tommy, which was against the Serbs, and so you can only assume they're on the same team again. It's just how and why they end up fighting as one against the Serbian network. Shanti Showstopper Page is one of the new characters that's been introduced for season 2, a prized ex-professional boxer who runs her own gym. Now, we didn't see her in the ring herself in episode 1, but at some point in season 2 we will, and she is tough. So despite Janard facing an uphill battle, she could very well be a formidable partner for Janard, and I do think he needs it at this moment in time. My only question around Shanti is, we still don't know too much about her apart from her boxing background and her ambitious nature. At this moment in time, she is down with Janard and in his corner, so to speak, but in my episode 1 breakdown, I did question whether she wants to stay with a sinking ship, because that's what his organization is. I mean, the name Treason says it all, but besides her relationship with Janard, I am looking forward to what Shanti adds to Force. She seems tough and able to hold her own, and she does seem like a character who has a never back down kind of attitude. Now, just the last point on Treason and the CBI, it does seem like CBI will at some point kidnap someone. Whether this is retaliation on the move that Treason will make on Tommy, who knows, but we all know Power can manipulate these trailers with these short scenes and clips, so there's not much to go on in regards to this potential kidnapping, apart from this war that's on the horizon between the CBI and Treason. In season 1, we learn how the Flynn family answer to bigger bosses in Dublin. Walter Flynn runs the organization in Chicago the way he likes, because that's the way he likes it and that's the way the bosses in Dublin also like it, except they're not happy with him at this moment in time. We saw Brendan Doyle make the trip overseas to personally tell Walter that he's got a large compensation figure he needs to pay. That was because of the 4 horsemen who died on his watch. So how will Walter turn this around, or is the clock ticking on his reign as a leader of the Flynns? I think we all know Walter is too stubborn to change his ways. He's never done so in the past, and I really don't see him doing so in the future. Except in episode 2's trailer, we do see him approaching Claudia, but only because I feel as if he has to. Vic is a wreck at this moment in time, and he is in no shape to help, let alone lead. Now, at some point I am expecting the issues with Dublin to get serious. We've got Claudia with Brendan Doyle being interrupted, and she looks locked and loaded. We've also seen from various teasers and trailers with Walter Flynn doing the same at the Flynn mansion. So they are going to come under a heavy attack at some point this season. Now here's the thing, I don't see the attack coming from the CBI, Treason, or the Serbs for that matter. Tommy of course wants revenge for Liliana's death, and at some point he'll come for Claudia, but that's his beef. The only people I see coming for the Flynns is Dublin, so it is about to get spicy. We've then got Vic making his move with what looks like him back in the fold with the CBI, who seem to have grown their organization. There's a lot more soldiers sitting in front of Diamond than there was in episode 1, and so whatever Diamond and Tommy are doing is definitely working. Except one problem they have is law enforcement. Diamond says they've got the feds all over them, and he's not wrong. Stacey Marks is putting together a task force with the help of her husband, who also works within law enforcement, and this is going to be a big problem for them all. The CBI, Treason, Vic, Walter, the Serbs, as well as the Mexicans. Anybody connected to Tommy Egan will be firmly in the sights of Stacey Marks, because Tommy will be at the center of the investigation. Now this is also a huge part of Tommy's story in season 2 of Force. Kate made the move to Chicago and is somewhat trying to right some wrongs. Tommy's also trying to do right by his family because he knows how his last one turned out in New York, so he doesn't want his family in Chicago anywhere near the game. He gifted JP a bar and hopes D-Mac can join him, but JP keeps insisting he can help Tommy in more ways than one. And then there's D-Mac, who won't always be happy to sit on a sofa. But there's not much to go on apart from what we've seen in episode 1, which does make me think something big is coming with Tommy's family. Either there's one bombshell of a secret or a huge family death incoming, because that is a consequence of the game Tommy's in. It's either jail or death.